Pulling your hamstring stinks. All right, I've done that probably 4 or 5 times on my left leg, about 4 or 5 times on my right. Throughout my entire career, either that being in high school or collegiate, playing baseball, getting out of the catcher squat and going to sprint, hamstrings pop. It's one of the worst feelings you can ever have. And I was told all the time, oh, I'm either too tight or I'm too weak. So I would spam RDLs and I would spam Nordic hamstrings and I would get really strong and I would still pull it. So obviously there's a disconnect there from what I was being told by either PTs, chiros, or doctors, and then what was actually happening when I would go play. So by no means am I a physical therapist or a doctor or an orthopedic surgeon, but this is everything that I've seen, researched, studied, and done myself, and I think this is the best way to go from injury as soon as you pull it to returning back to play. 12 weeks, we're going step by step, and I'll explain each one individually. So you just pulled your hamstring, you don't know what you can do, everything really hurts, you can't really bend down to pick anything up. We're gonna start very slow and very light with low-level isometric training. What isometric training is just holding a specific joint angle position for around 30 to 60 seconds. You can progress that if you want, but right there I think is the sweet spot, so you're not there for 5 minutes just holding it for as long as you possibly can. Especially starting off, you don't wanna push it too hard just yet. So a very easy way to start is you go from short lever to long lever. What the short lever is you're just making the joint angle not as aggressive on the hamstring. The closer your heel is to your butt, so take a single leg glute bridge for example, the closer your heel is to your butt, the easier it's gonna feel. The further away it goes, the more tension and more pressure you're gonna feel, and you might experience some cramping. It's gonna feel like your hamstring's on fire a little bit, especially if you've never done it before. So that's how we progress it, short to long. Start with body weight. Body weight for 30 seconds aside is probably going to be perfect if you just heard it. And then progress either through time or through load. Loading doesn't have to be anything crazy. If you can get body weight long lever for about 45 to 60 seconds, then you can start adding some 10, 25, 35-pound dumbbells. You don't have to load up 200 pounds and see what your hamstring can do. Start off doing the two-legged one. I really like the two-legged one for long lever. It's super easy, and you can feel the difference in between legs. Once it starts to feel like the injury isn't as aggressive, that's when we could switch to unilateral, single leg variations, and then progressing weeks 1 through 3 through there. The next phase that we got is going to be our eccentric strength phase. So eccentric is just meaning muscle lengthening. So you're trying to lengthen the muscle through load at your pace, but it's going to be a step up from isometric training. So what I have written down here is the simple hamstring curl. If you have access to a weight room that has machines, so anything that has a seated hamstring curl machine or a lying down hamstring curl machine, this one would be perfect to use it for, especially in a rehab setting where you can control the weight and you're in a fixed environment and you can create tension through that. But if you don't have access to that, and we don't, but what I use a lot are the hamstring valve slides or the physio balls if you have access to those as well. But bridging your hips up, slowly lowering your leg out, and then if that's too aggressive, just do the lowering. You don't have to worry about the curl back up. But doing things like that will help strengthen the hamstring in that eccentric portion. And once you become a master at hamstring curls and that variation, the very difficult thing that we can do is going to be the Nordic hamstring curl. I don't know if you've ever seen Tyreek Hill on ESPN or SportsCenter. He goes viral every other year, or pretty much every year, that he just can bang out 10 of them like nothing, and his hamstrings are very strong. So start off very low intensity, and then work your way up, and then attempt a Nordic hamstring. You can go band assisted if you want. We do those all the time here with a partner. But if you're just flopping on the ground, you're not really getting the most out of it. So just progress accordingly, and don't do anything too crazy too fast. The third phase here is where we're trying to get back into our athletic movement. All right, we just spent 1 to 6 weeks building up the base and having a good general physical preparedness, GPP, for your hamstring and your load in the back leg. So now what I want to see is going into a little bit more plyometrics or jump training. So we start off simply by starting off with single repetition, 80 to 85% effort jumps. So think of your broad jump with a stick, your vertical jump with a stick, you're sticking the landing. You're not going repetitive, or you're not going too intensive just yet. And then as you're going and warming up, and if you're feeling pretty good, that's when we get into more multi-rep plyometrics, where you can think of your quick pogo hurdle hops and your side-to-side skater jumps, or anything that is quick ground contact time that mimics a little bit more than what you're going to do in the sport. And then always working from your sagittal, your front to back, to frontal, side to side, because you got to think there's a reason probably why your hamstring got hurt. You're either weak in the sagittal plane or you're weak in the frontal plane. So either one, you need to get stronger and you need to be able to produce force either way. And this is when, if you're really feeling comfortable, week 7, 8, 9, if you want to start adding in some submax sprinting, so 70, 80%, 10 to 15 yards, nothing maximally yet, just feeling it out and making sure the technique's down, is a good place to put this in. So the final phase in phase 4 is where we're really going to try to get as close to return to play as we can. So this is when we can microdose maximal effort sprinting. If we're still not comfortable with maximal effort sprinting with just our body weight, this is when we can do sled sprints, weighted sprints, building up capacity through sprinting and having that more concentric speed in the hamstring and the glute and the calf, and having everything sped up closer to game speed. This is when we can also add in some small-sided games to really mimic agility. So something that's super simple that we do all the time is the circle cone tag. You're also just playing a game that's pretty much what your sport's going to be. So you need to have something in your rehab that's going to mimic the speed that you're going to be playing at. Because if you do weeks 1 through 9 and you never really get anything fast in there and you go right to play, your hamstring isn't going to be used to it. It's not going to be adaptable to what you're trying to do, and you're going to be trying to go 0 to 60 when your hamstring's just not ready for it. So that's why having your rehab, having something to do with some game-like speed and agility and reactive component is crucial so you can stay injury-free and playing your best at whatever sport you are.